You thought you could erase me from this house. David, never. My voice thundered through the sleek Seattle law office, shattering the tense silence. Papers trembled on the mahogany table as David Lawson, my husband, recoiled his face, pale eyes darting to his parents. Richard and Margaret, who sat frozen, their smug confidence crumbling. I stood tall, my heart pounding, every nerve alight with defiance. Behind me, Claire Lawson, David's sister, slammed a stack of legal documents onto the table, her voice icy. "This villa belongs to Emma Harper, and you'll pay for your lies." The room felt electric, charged with betrayal and the promise of justice. Outside Puget Sound's waves crashed against the shore, mirroring the storm inside me. The city skyline loomed through floor-to-ceiling windows, a silent witness to the battle unfolding. I wasn't just fighting for a house. I was fighting for my life, my truth, my freedom. How did it come to this? Let me take you back to the moment I believed in love, in family, in trust. The villa on Lake Washington was supposed to be our haven, a gift I gave to David's parents out of gratitude. I'm Emma Harper, a 55-year-old lawyer who clawed her way to the top of Seattle's legal world, earning over $150,000 a year. I thought I'd built a home with David, a banker who promised to cherish me, and his parents, who I cared for like my own. They'd helped me escape a mountain of debt years ago, and I owed them everything, or so I thought. But gratitude can blind you. It can chain you to people who smile while sharpening their knives. That night in this very office, I faced the truth. My family had betrayed me, used me, and cast me aside, but they underestimated me. This is the story of how I turned their lies into my strength, how I reclaimed what was mine, and how I learned the true cost of trust. My name is Emma Harper, and for years I believed I was living the American dream in Seattle. A top lawyer at a prestigious firm, pulling in over $150,000 a year, married to David Lawson, a charming banker who swore he'd always have my back. We lived in a stunning villa on Lake Washington, its glass walls reflecting the water's shimmer. A home I'd poured my heart into. I wasn't just building a life for us, though. I was repaying a debt, one that bound me to David's parents, Richard and Margaret Lawson, who lived with us. Gratitude, you see, can be a powerful chain. It pulls you tight, blinds you to the cracks in the walls, until they start to crumble. Let me take you back to where it began. I was 25, drowning in $80,000 of law school debt. My dreams of becoming a lawyer teetering on the edge. My parents were gone, their small business collapsed under bad investments, leaving me with nothing but ambition and fear. That's when David entered my life, all warm smiles and steady promises. His family stepped in like saviors. Richard, a retired contractor, and Margaret, a former school teacher, offered to cover my debt. It's not charity. Emma, Margaret said, her voice soft motherly. We believe in you. Let us help. David nodded, squeezing my hand. We're family now, right? I was overwhelmed, tears stinging my eyes. I said yes, of course I'd marry him. I'd repay them not just with money, but with loyalty, with love. Fast forward a decade, and I'd done it. Passed the bar, landed a job at a top Seattle firm, and paid off every cent of that debt. My career soared, clients lining up to hire the tenacious Emma Harper for their property disputes. I loved the thrill of the courtroom, the way a well-crafted argument could turn the tide. But at home, things were different. The villa, a barrier-free haven I'd suggested for Richard, who'd been paralyzed after a construction accident, was my gift to them. Its open layout ramps and smart home features made life easier for him, for Margaret, who was slowing down with age. I took on the mortgage $500,000 because I could, because I owed them. David agreed it was the right thing to do. "You're amazing, Emma," he'd say, kissing my forehead. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? But the villa wasn't the sanctuary I'd imagined. It started small, the demands. "Emma, where's my morning coffee?" Richard's voice gruff echoing from the living room. I'd pause mid-email, fetch his mug, force a smile. "Emma, the TV's acting up again." Margaret would call, her tone sharp, impatient. I'd troubleshoot the remote, ignoring the pile of case files on my desk. "Emma, can you help me to the couch?" Richard again, his hands lingering too long on my arm as I steadied him. I'd grit my teeth, remind myself he was disabled, that he needed me. David was no help. "I'm swamped at the bank, babe," he'd say, slipping out the door, leaving me to juggle it all. Work, home, their endless needs. I was exhausted, but I pushed through. Their family, I told myself. This is what family does. Still, doubts crept in, like shadows on the lake at dusk. I noticed David's spending charges on our joint credit card for dinners, gadgets, things he never mentioned. Just work stuff he'd shrug when I asked, but his eyes wouldn't meet mine. Margaret's complaints grew sharper. "This house is a mess, Emma. Can't you manage better?" I'd bite my tongue, scrub the counters, and wonder why nothing was ever enough. Richard's behavior was worse. His requests felt personal, invasive. "Help me change Emma," he'd say, his gaze unsettling. I'd refuse, suggest David help, but Richard would laugh it off. "You're stronger than him, aren't you?" My skin crawled, but I stayed silent. Gratitude, that old chain, kept me tethered. I tried talking to David. Late at night, the villa quiet, I'd whisper my frustrations. "Your dad's crossing lines, David. And your mom, she expects me to do everything." He'd sigh, pull me close. "They're old, Emma. They don't mean it. I'll talk to them, okay?" But he never did. The next day, it was the same. "Emma, the laundry's piling up." Margaret's voice piercing. "Emma, my pills," Richard demanding. I felt like a servant in my own home. The mortgage payments draining my account while they leaned harder on me. I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if this was love, if this was family. Divorce flickered in my mind, but I pushed it away. They'd saved me once. I owed them, didn't I? Then came the first crack, the one I couldn't ignore. I was reviewing our finances, a habit from my legal training, when I found a statement showing David had opened a separate account, funneling thousands from our joint funds. My stomach twisted. "David, what's this?" I held up the statement, my voice steady but cold. He froze, then flashed that charming smile. "Just investments, babe. Don't worry." But I did worry. I started checking more, digging into our accounts, our mortgage. Something felt off, like a case I couldn't crack. I didn't know it then, but I was on the edge of a truth that would shatter everything. The villa, the family, the life I'd built, they were all part of a lie, one I'd been too grateful, too trusting to see. The villa's dining room glowed under the chandelier, Lake Washington's dark waters glinting beyond the windows. I sat across from David, Richard, and Margaret, the clink of wine glasses masking the tension in my chest. I'd just checked our bank account that morning, a routine glance at the numbers. The mortgage, that $500,000 weight I'd carried for years, was gone, paid in full. A wave of relief had washed over me, like sunlight breaking through Seattle's endless clouds. I could breathe again, dream again, but as David poured more wine, his smile too wide, I felt it, a prickle of unease. Emma, the mortgage is done right, he asked, his voice casual, too casual. I nodded, forcing a smile. Yeah, finally. Why? His eyes flicked to Margaret, then back to me. We should celebrate. You've worked so hard. My heart warmed just for a moment. Maybe he saw me, really saw me. But then Margaret spoke, her voice sharp as a blade. Actually, Emma, we've sold the villa to Natalie. It's time for you to leave. The room spun. My fork clattered to the plate. What I choked out, my voice barely a whisper. Natalie, Margaret's old friend, a woman I'd met only a handful of times. Her smile always too tight, her words too sweet. Sold the villa I'd paid for the home I'd built for them. Richard leaned back in his wheelchair, smirking. It's in her name now. We don't need you anymore. David wouldn't meet my eyes, his fingers twisting the stem of his glass. I stared at them, my family, the people I'd trusted, loved, sacrificed for. You sold it. My voice cracked disbelief, warring with a rising fury. Margaret's gaze was cold, unyielding. You've done your part. Emma, the house is ours. Pack your things by tomorrow. Tomorrow, my home. My life ripped away in a single sentence. I pushed back from the table, my chair scraping the hardwood. This is my house. I paid for it every cent. David finally spoke, his voice low, almost bored. It's not yours, Emma. It never was. My heart shattered, the pieces slicing through years of gratitude. Trust. Love. I stumbled to my office, the villa's walls closing in each photo. Each memory now a lie. They'd used me, played me from the start. The $80,000 they'd gifted to clear my debt. The marriage, the villa, all part of a scheme. To make me their bank, their servant. I sank into my chair, my laptop glowing in the dark. That's when I saw it, an email I'd overlooked, buried in a folder David thought I'd never check. It was from Natalie to Margaret, dated months ago. Emma's close to paying it off. Once it's done, we transfer the deed. She'll never suspect. My blood ran cold. They'd planned this, plotted while I worked, while I cared for them. Betrayal wasn't just a word, it was a knife twisting with every line I read. I couldn't stay in that house, not with their lies suffocating me. I grabbed my phone, my hands shaking, and dialed Claire Lawson. David's sister, a tech mogul in San Francisco, was the only one who'd ever treated me like family, not a tool. We'd bonded over late-night calls, her sharp wit cutting through my exhaustion. Claire, it's Emma, I said, my voice breaking. They sold the villa. They're kicking me out. Silence, then a low, furious, what? I poured it all out, the email, the betrayal, the years of demands. Claire's voice hardened. I'm on the next flight to Seattle. Don't do anything until I get there. I hung up, my tears falling, but something else stirred inside me. Anger raw and fierce like a fire I'd never let burn before. They thought I'd break, slink away quietly. They were wrong. Claire arrived the next morning, her presence a storm of confidence in a tailored blazer. We met at a coffee shop near Pike Place Market, the scent of espresso grounding me as I fought to keep my voice steady. They forged the deed, Claire. My name's not even on it. She leaned forward, her eyes blazing. Natalie's done this before, Emma. Years ago, she tried to scam me out of a startup investment. Mom covered for her then, too. My jaw tightened. Margaret, always the puppeteer, pulling David's strings, Natalie's strings. Claire pulled out her laptop, her fingers flying. I've got contacts at the county recorder's office. If they faked the deed, we'll prove it. Her certainty anchored me, but the wound was still raw. Why, Claire? Why did they do this to me? She sighed, her face softening. Because you were their golden goose, Emma. They saw your ambition, your loyalty, and they milked it. We spent hours digging Claire's tech savvy, unspuring more. The email wasn't the only one. There were bank transfers, small sums David had siphoned to Natalie labeled consulting fees. My stomach churned. My husband, my partner, had been in on it. Maybe from the day we met, I thought of our wedding, his vows. I'll always cherish you, lies every word. But I wasn't the naive girl they'd conned anymore. I was a lawyer trained to find the truth, to fight for it. We need evidence, Claire, I said, my voice steady now. Something they can't deny. She nodded, a glint in her eye. We'll get it, and when we do, they'll regret ever crossing you. That night alone in a hotel, the city's lights sparkling below. I let myself feel it all, pain, rage, determination. The villa wasn't just a house. It was my proof, my sacrifice, my identity. They thought they could steal it, steal me, but I was done being their pawn. I opened my laptop, started documenting everything, every demand, every slight, every payment. My legal mind kicked in, building a case brick by brick. Claire's words echoed, "They'll regret it." Oh, they would. This wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about justice, about showing them who Emma Harper really was. The fire in me burned brighter, and I knew this was only the beginning. The courtroom in downtown Seattle buzzed with tension, its polished wood and high ceilings amplifying every whisper. I stood at the plaintiff's table, my heart hammering, but my face a mask of steel. Across from me, David, Richard, Margaret, and Natalie sat, their eyes avoiding mine, their confidence fraying like cheap thread. Claire Lawson stood beside me, her presence a fortress, her tech empire's resources fueling our fight. Our lawyer, Thomas Reed, a silver-haired veteran with a reputation for dismantling liars, adjusted his glasses, his calm demeanor hiding a predator's focus. The judge, a stern woman with sharp eyes, called the session to order. This was it, my chance to reclaim not just the villa on Lake Washington, but my dignity, my truth. They thought they'd buried me. Today, I'd show them I could fight. Thomas opened with a surgical strike, presenting the forged deed that transferred the villa to Natalie. Your Honor, the plaintiff. Emma Harper paid every cent of the $500,000 mortgage. Yet her name was erased from the title through fraud. He held up the document, its falsified signature glaring under the courtroom lights. My chest tightened, remembering the nights I'd worked late, sacrificing sleep to cover those payments, believing I was building a home for us all. David shifted in his seat, his tie askew, sweat beading on his forehead. Margaret's lips pursed, her hands clenched. Natalie, her fake poise crumbling, stared at the floor. Richard, confined to his wheelchair, muttered something to David, but I didn't care. Their excuses meant nothing now. Thomas called me to the stand. I walked forward, my heels clicking, each step a declaration. I swore the oath, my voice steady, though my hands trembled. Ms. Harper, Thomas began. Tell us about the villa. I took a breath, the weight of years pressing down. I bought it for my husband's parents, Richard and Margaret, to make their lives easier. Richard's paralyzed, and Margaret's health was failing. I took on the mortgage because they'd helped me with my law school debt years ago. I thought I owed them. My voice cracked, but I pushed on. I paid every dime, $500,000 over 10 years. But they planned to kick me out the moment it was paid, to give it to Natalie, their friend. They forged my signature, stole my home, my trust. The courtroom was silent, the air heavy. Thomas handed me the email I'd found, the one between Natalie and Margaret, plotting to use me. I read it aloud, my voice rising. Emma's close to paying it off. We transfer the deed. She'll never suspect. Gasps rippled through the gallery. I looked at David, willing him to meet my eyes. He didn't. They used my gratitude, my love, like a weapon. I said my words, sharp cutting. They made me their servant, their bank, while they laughed behind my back. Tears stung, but I refused to let them fall. Not here, not for them. Thomas played the next card, security footage from the villa's living room, installed for Richard's safety, but now they're undoing. The screen flickered, showing Margaret and Natalie at the dining table, their voices clear. Once Emma's out, we sell the place, split the profits, Natalie said, smirking. Margaret nodded. She's too trusting, always has been. My stomach twisted, the betrayal raw all over again. The judge's face hardened, her pen pausing. David's lawyer, a nervous man in a cheap suit, stammered an objection, but it was weak, desperate. The evidence was ironclad. Then came the twist. Claire took the stand. Her voice commanding, every word a blade. Your Honor, I uncovered more. Natalie's been laundering money through fake consulting fees using my brother David's bank accounts. She held up bank records showing transfers I'd never known, about thousands funneled to Natalie while I paid their bills. The gallery buzzed, the judge leaning forward. Claire's eyes locked on David. You were complicit, little brother. You sold your wife for a cut. David's face crumpled, his hands gripping the table. Margaret gasped. That's not true. But Claire wasn't done. I bought Natalie's debt from her bank. Your Honor, she's broke and she's desperate. That's why they rushed to steal Emma's villa. I felt a surge of power, not just from Claire's words, but from something deeper. I wasn't alone anymore. My fight wasn't just for me, it was for every woman who'd been used, betrayed, dismissed. I'd joined a support group in Seattle, women who'd faced their own battles, their stories echoing mine. One member, Lisa, a financial analyst, had helped me dig deeper, uncovering Natalie's shady deals. Fake invoices, hidden accounts. Her evidence was in Thomas's hands now, a final nail in their coffin. I glanced at the gallery where Lisa sat, her nod giving me strength. This wasn't just a courtroom, it was my battlefield, and truth was my sword. Thomas called Natalie to the stand. She fidgeted, her designer dress suddenly too tight. Did you forge Ms. Harper's signature? He asked, his tone calm but lethal. Natalie stammered. I didn't mean to. Margaret said it was fine. Margaret's head snapped up, her eyes wide. Don't you dare blame me. The courtroom erupted, the judge banging her gavel. I almost laughed. They were unraveling, turning on each other, their lies collapsing like a house of cards. Thomas pressed harder, showing texts between Natalie and David, planning to sell the villa for $2 million, splitting it 3 ways. My home, my sacrifice, reduced to their payday. I stood again, unasked, my voice ringing out. I trusted you, David, like family. I cared for your parents, paid for your lies, and you saw me as a pawn. But today, that pawn flips the board. The words poured out, years of pain, rage, strength. The judge's eyes softened just for a moment. David slumped, his face buried in his hands. Margaret's mouth opened, but no words came. Natalie sobbed, her facade shattered. I felt it then, power not just over them, but over myself. They'd tried to break me, but I was rising taller, stronger, unstoppable. Claire squeezed my hand as we sat, her whisper fierce. We've got them, Emma. Thomas closed with a final blow, requesting an injunction to freeze Natalie's assets and restore the villa to my name. The judge nodded, her voice firm. I'll review the evidence. Court is adjourned. I exhaled, my body trembling, not with fear, but with purpose. The fight wasn't over, but I knew we'd win. They'd underestimated me, my allies, my truth. As we left the courtroom, Seattle's skyline gleaming under a rare sunny sky, I felt alive, ready for whatever came next. They thought they'd stolen my home. They were about to learn they'd only set me free. The Seattle courtroom felt different now, the air lighter, as if the truth had swept away the shadows. I sat beside Claire Lawson, my hands steady, my heart no longer racing. The judge's gavel struck, silencing the murmurs. Her voice was clear, unwavering. Based on the evidence of fraud and forgery, the court awards full ownership of the Lake Washington villa to Emma Harper. A ripple of relief coursed through me, like sunlight breaking over the sound. Additionally, she continued, David Lawson, Margaret Lawson, and Natalie Carter are ordered to pay $100,000 in damages for financial and emotional harm. I exhaled, years of weight lifting from my shoulders. David's face was ashen, his eyes fixed on the floor. Margaret clutched her purse, her lips trembling. Natalie, her makeup streaked, looked small, defeated. Richard, silent in his wheelchair, seemed detached, as if he'd already checked out. They'd lost. I'd won. Claire squeezed my arm, her smile fierce. You did it, Emma. I nodded, but it wasn't just about the villa. It was about reclaiming myself, proving I wasn't the naive woman they'd manipulated. Thomas Reed, our lawyer, gathered his papers, his calm nod saying more than words. The gallery, filled with faces from my support group, erupted in quiet cheers. Lisa, the financial analyst who'd helped uncover Natalie's shady deals, gave me a thumbs up. These women, strangers turned sisters, had shown me I wasn't alone. Their strength had fueled mine, and I'd carry that forever. Walking out of the courthouse, Seattle's skyline sparkled under a rare clear sky, the Space Needle piercing the horizon. I felt free. The villa, that glass-walled dream I'd poured a decade into, was mine again, but I didn't want to live there. Its rooms held too many ghosts. Margaret's demands, Richard's unsettling touches, David's lies. Instead, I decided to rent it out, its barrier-free design and prime location, perfect for a family needing a fresh start. The income would fund a cause close to my heart, a local charity for women escaping financial abuse. Every dollar would help someone like me, someone who'd trusted too much, lost too much. The house wasn't my chain anymore. It was my wings. I moved into a sleek downtown apartment, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city's pulse. My new home was mine. Alone, filled with light books and the quiet I'd craved. My career thrived, clients drawn to the unbreakable. Emma Harper, the lawyer who'd fought her own battle and won. I poured myself into work, but not like before. I made time for coffee with colleagues, for laughter, for life. My support group became my anchor, their weekly meetings a place to share, heal, grow. One night I hosted a seminar there, standing before 24 women, my voice steady. They tried to steal my home, my trust, but they gave me something better, my strength. Applause filled the room, and I felt it purpose deeper than any verdict. The fallout for David and his family was swift, brutal. Natalie, her finances frozen, lost her job at a shady real estate firm. She worked double shifts at a diner, her designer dresses traded for a stained apron, scrambling to pay off the $100,000 debt. Margaret and David moved into a cramped apartment in a run-down part of town, their social circle gone, their reputations in tatters. Neighbors whispered about the Lawson scam, and Margaret's haughty air couldn't shield her from the shame. David, once a rising star at the bank, was demoted, his charm useless now. Richard, limited by his disability, relied on a meager pension, his days spent in silence. They'd built their castle on lies, and it had crumbled, leaving them with nothing. Claire became my rock, my family, in a way David never was. She visited often her San Francisco penthouse, a world away, but her heart right here. Over wine at my apartment, she shared her own battles, how she'd fought Margaret's control to build her tech empire. "You're stronger than I ever was, Emma," she said, her eyes warm. I shook my head. "I had you, Claire. That made the difference." She'd not only funded Thomas's legal fees, but connected me with a publisher who wanted my story. A book deal, a chance to inspire others. It was a new chapter I never expected. I signed the contract, my pen steady, my future bright. Their calls started days after the verdict. Desperate voicemails I deleted without listening. David's voice pleading, "Emma, we can work this out." Margaret's shrill, "You've ruined us." I blocked their numbers, my phone finally silent. I'd given them years of my life, my trust, my labor. No more. When they showed up at my firm, disheveled and loud, demanding to see me, my manager stepped in. "Ms. Harper's done with you," he said, escorting them out. Security footage of their outburst spread online, a final nail in their coffin. I watched it once, their faces twisted with rage, and felt nothing. They were strangers now, relics of a life I'd left behind. Seattle embraced me, its rain-soaked streets, a canvas for my rebirth. I ran along the waterfront, my breath steady, my mind clear. I cooked for friends, laughed louder, smiled brighter. Colleagues noticed, one joking, "Emma, you're glowing." "What's the secret?" I grinned. "Freedom." The scars remained, but they were maps, not chains, guiding me to who I'd become. The publisher sent a draft cover for my book, The Cost of Trust, my name bold across it. I traced the letters, pride swelling. This wasn't just my story. It was for every woman who'd been used, who'd fought back, who'd risen. As I stood on my balcony, the city's lights dancing below, I thought of the villa, now home to a new family, its walls no longer echoing betrayal. I thought of David, Margaret, Natalie, their lives diminished by their own greed. And I thought of Claire, Lisa, the women who'd lifted me up. The cost of trust had been steep, but it taught me something priceless. I was enough. I was strong, and no one ever again would take that from me. Seattle's skyline twinkled through my apartment window, the city alive with possibility. I leaned against the balcony railing, the cool night air, brushing my skin, a glass of wine in hand. The battle for the Lake Washington villa was over. The courtroom's echo faded, but its lessons burned bright in me. I wasn't the same Emma Harper who'd trusted blindly, who'd let gratitude chain her to liars. I'd fought, I'd won, and I'd learned. Standing here free, I saw it clearly. Betrayal doesn't break you. It builds you if you let it. My story, my scars, they're not just mine. They're for anyone who's been used, who's felt alone, who's dared to rise. Let me share what I've learned, what I carry now, what I hope you'll carry too. First, resilience is your greatest weapon. David, Margaret, Natalie. They thought they could crush me, kick me out of the villa I'd paid for, leave me with nothing. Their lies hit like a storm, tearing through my trust, my home, my heart. But I didn't break. I found strength I didn't know I had in Claire's support, in my support group, in my own stubborn will. When life knocks you down, it's not the fall that defines you. It's standing up bruised but unbowed and saying, I'm still here. You have that strength too. Dig deep, find it, use it. No one can take that from you unless you let them. Second, trust is precious, but it's not a blank check. I gave mine to David to his parents because they'd helped me with my law school debt because I believed in family. But they saw my trust as a tool, a way to manipulate me into paying their mortgage, doing their bidding. I learned the hard way, trust must be earned, proven through actions, not just words. David's promises, Margaret's motherly smiles, they were empty masks for greed. Now I trust differently. I trust Claire, who fought for me. I trust Lisa, who shared her expertise. I trust myself. Be generous with your heart, but be wise. Ask, do their actions match their words? If not, walk away. You deserve people who value you. Third, community can turn pain into power. I was drowning in betrayal alone in that hotel room when Claire's call pulled me back. My support group in Seattle, women like Lisa, who'd faced their own battles, gave me a lifeline. They listened, shared, lifted me up. One night, a woman named Sarah told me how her ex drained her savings. I shared my story, and we cried, laughed, healed together. That group wasn't just a meeting, it was a sisterhood. Find your people, whether it's a group, a friend, a mentor. They'll remind you you're not alone, that your fight matters. Together, you're unstoppable. I've thought a lot about what this all means, about why my story resonates. It's not just about a villa or a courtroom win. It's about reclaiming your worth in a world that tries to exploit it. I see it now in my law practice, in the women I help through the charity I fund with the villa's rent. Society pushes us to trust, to give, to sacrifice, but it rarely teaches us to protect ourselves. That's my take, my truth, your strength, your trust, your community. They're yours to guard, to wield. Don't let anyone steal them. You're not just enough, you're everything. How do you live this? Start with your finances. I ignored David's secret accounts, the red flags, because I was too busy, too trusting. Now I check every statement, every contract. You should too. Monitor joint accounts, read the fine print, question odd charges. It's not paranoia, it's power. Next, seek help when you need it. I found Lisa in my support group, a financial whiz who spotted Natalie's fraud. There's no shame in asking for expertise, a lawyer, a counselor, a friend. They can see what you miss. Finally, build relationships on truth. Watch how people act, not what they say. Claire showed up, fought for me. David didn't. Choose your Claires, not your Davids. As I sip my wine, the city humming below, I feel gratitude, not the blind kind that trapped me, but the real kind. For Claire, who became my family. For Lisa, for the women who held me up. For myself, for fighting when I wanted to quit. My book, The Cost of Trust, is coming soon, a way to share these lessons to reach others. I hope it finds you wherever you are, whatever you're facing. Betrayals aren't endings, they're beginnings, if you choose them to be. You're stronger than you know. Trust that, live that, and never ever let anyone tell you otherwise.